and what business drivers are pushing this evolution of the wearables IoT ecosystem and the industrial internet, and how our business operations and offerings being transformed as the industrial internet and wearables IoT ecosystem begins to grow. Here in the Dell TI Now studio are James Kimmery, Director of Marketing, RF Communications, and SDR Initiatives at National Instruments. Next to him is Matt Kowalski, he's Senior Manager of Operations at Zebra Technologies Corporation. And next to him is Josh Waddell, he's Global Vice President, IoT Business Innovation at SAP. And last on the panel, on the end is Fred Jens, Chief Executive Officer of Telit IoT Platforms. And gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Abe.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. It's a pleasure. We're kind of winding down day 2 of the TIA 2016 conference. We're talking about the industrial Internet of Things and really everything IoT, including wearables. Matt, I want to start with you talking about the primary drivers for IoT wearables and industrial Internet of Things as well. What are those primary drivers?
Well, that's an excellent question. And I think really one of the biggest business drivers is productivity. A lot of customers come to us and they say, how can I get another 3 or 4% increase in productivity from my workers? And that's one of the questions that come up, and that is a huge business driver. So one of the things that we look at is we say, okay, well, we've got a lot of data coming through the Internet of Things. We serve that data up. Data is power, we all know that. So if we can take some of that data and be more productive with it, and then pass that on to the end user in a sense of a wearable device or something along those lines, they become more productive. So we're driving that ROI from that business driver of a productivity ask from a customer.
So Fred, primary driver in the industrial Internet of Things space.
So I think generally, to the point made, it's all about the use cases. I like to say you got to make money, save money, or stay out of jail, or don't do it, right? And tongue in cheek, compliance and everything else around that. But there's got to be an economic driver or some value add, whether it's intimacy with your customer and getting to know them. But in the industrial space, it's a traditional use cases, right? It's getting more out of your capital assets, fixing things quicker, providing more value to the owner or the buyer of your things. So I think we as an industry have to talk about that kind of value prop, not how things work, but why to use them.
Yeah, and back to the topic of wearables, I do think it's productivity, business drivers. You look at whether it's wearables and field service, the ability that a wearable could eliminate a broken service call with peer-to-peer streaming video, or remote expert bringing in people that are not physically on site through wearable devices. I think the productivity gains there could be significant.
That's a good point.
James?
In terms of the drivers themselves, I think there has to be a business case for all these different use cases, and the use case can scale in terms of small to big, but economically it has to make sense.
Now, I want to get an example, and I'll start with Fred. We'll just go down the line here. Can you give me an example of I guess maybe a highlight of an Internet of Things? Well, I'll start with Fred. On the industrial Internet of Things, can you talk about a device or a platform or a technology that you're working on now?
So when the industrial Internet of Things, or Industry 4.0, it's the convergence of the physical world and the digital world. So how do you take those two very different worlds, OT and IT, put them together and create value? So again, the use case, things like predictive maintenance, but maybe what you're going to sell is service, a different kind of a service warranty program. Maybe you're going to do a per use of a tool instead of potentially selling a capital asset of a tool. So turning things more into OpEx from CapEx, which is more of a financial instrument, right? In addition to maybe making it work better because you're doing more prescriptive or predictive maintenance on the asset.
Josh, a use case in the wearable space, maybe?
Yeah, in the wearable space, I was actually going to just comment. I mean, we're building out solutions in kind of 3 areas: platforms, applications, and networks, with partners like Telit and Zebra and others. But what's really interesting to me is the networks and the opportunity for kind of classic business model disruption within the network space. So whether it's asset intelligence networks or vehicles networks, there's a lot of real business model disruption and disrupting traditional service contracts, the way we've always done things.
Matt, one of the things we talked about in the panel was combining like a wearable device with something like augmented reality. Layering that shell of augmented reality onto a wearable device. So a good use case would be something along the lines of, if I'm an architect and I'm building a building, I can, through augmented reality and a wearable device, perhaps mounted on my head as a heads-up display, I can see that building being built. I can see how much inventory I need. I can see where my manpower is going, how much more manpower I'm going to need to complete the building. It's going to then feed me more data, so the next building I build, I'm going to know how to approach it, how much I'm going to need, how much I'm not going to need. Think about the productivity that comes from that knowledge. As we talked about, data is power, there it is right there.
James, a use case?
Well, in terms of, I think the augmented reality one is really special because it's not just building things, but there's also the healthcare, there's kind of behind the scenes coaching as you're going and building something, or even in the medical field, actually having diagnostic information right there as you're performing a procedure. So I think this augmented reality is something that definitely could be a really big driver for the Internet of Things and wearables.
Fred, go ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting, it's both ways. When you look at augmented reality, you might have drawings and schematics and repair instructions right on top of the asset you're fixing. You might also have the other way, where you're actually looking at an asset and there might be a remote expert over your shoulder trying to help you. So this is not just a one-way monitoring, or it's a bi-directional kind of a help. And SAP talks about the networks. I mean, what I think we mean there is there might be a view for the plant manager, and what are they doing with it? It might be a service person that works on the machine. It might be engineering that actually wants to build a better machine next time. So there's a lot of actors in this that can consume data from maybe one monitored machine, but it's different views for different purposes. And I think that's the power of connectivity. It's to share the data. If you're not going to share the data, you don't really need to digitize it. The machine operator can do it. We're giving the ability for the whole world, depending on your use case, what kind of an actor you are in the scenario, to get your view and add your value.
One thing I want to add to what James just said is training, right? If you've got a new employee who's coming up and you're in a warehouse or a distribution center and you've got a heads-up display with augmented reality, you can push that training so much more efficiently to that individual, so they're ramped up much faster. Think about that. If you're an individual in a warehouse or distribution center, it's a seasonal business, it's during the holidays, and you want that person to come up to speed, not take 4 or 5 months to learn the job, but cut that in a tenth. Think about the productivity if you have more than 10 or 15 seasonal employees. So I just want to add that point.
Now, Josh, Fred and Matt already talked about the sort of how your business operation can and will evolve as the IoT space grows. What's your take on that from SAP's point of view?
Yeah, I think this is actually what excites me the most, is to take IT data, information technology data that was kind of the original digital twin, and marry it with OT data and bring together applications that understand both sides of the equation. So whether it's a predictive maintenance example that Fred used, it could be something as we have operational data now, we're about to predict a failure. Well, what is the right decision to maximize shareholder wealth? Do we immediately dispatch a field service technician to make the repair? Maybe, but maybe ridership is really low at that particular moment, or a service technician is not available, is going to have a huge overtime. Maybe the right decision is to let it break. So that combining the OT data with the IT data is I think the huge opportunity is for all of us kind of moving forward.
James, of course we're sitting here at the Network of the Future conference, all about the network. What kind of infrastructure is necessary to support the IoT space and everything that's involved in that?
Well, currently, in terms of the wireless networks, there's for IoT, there's a mismatch of different networks that are available. There's LoRa, Sigfox, Thread, 802.11, Bluetooth. And I think, to really take it to the next level, there's two key points. One is if there was some commoditization or standardization in those interfaces, I think that would lead to economies of scale, which would lower costs and also lead to more widespread adoption. And the second point is in terms of evolving our networks, if our networks, we talked about applications that were more receiving data, but if there was a way that we could control where there's actually two-way, where the data is there on target. We talked about the augmented reality. If you're performing surgery and the data takes a couple minutes to get there, well, that's a time critical thing that it's inexcusable or it's not really suited to the technology. So some harmonization in the standards I think is important, but also having the standards to evolve to lower the network response time and latency, I think that could unlock tremendous economic value.
Fred, the challenge that the network faces over the next few years in trying to support really IoT connectivity.
So I think there's a lot of different kind of devices. There's a lot of different traffic profiles. Some are really chatty devices. Some require the two-way. 5G allows for that responsiveness to maybe you can centralize control. So I think there's going to be a different network for different kind of use cases, and there's not going to be one ubiquitous answer. So being able to arbitrate between them, because a big company might have lots of use cases with multiple networks. So it's all about providing a platform layer point of view that allows you to use this stuff without being a network engineer. You want to be the OT guy leveraging this complexity. So you got to give them a nice shiny surface to look into that's easy to use. That's the key.
I have nothing to add to the very eloquent way these gentlemen put that right there. So,
Josh, any additional challenge for the network as the IoT space begins to grow?
I'm sure we'll run into all kinds of challenges as we go, but no, I think a lot of the challenges we face are maybe not so much in the technical bits and bytes, but it's really in the disruption to the business model that we're attempting to change with the new solution.
I always like to ask this question in closing these types of panels. Fred, I'll start with you. What do you think we'll be talking about, maybe not next year at this conference, but maybe a couple of years down the road as far as IoT goes?
I think it's going to be the broader acceptance of IoT across lots of different enterprise sizes. So it's going to be around education of use cases and ease of use. It's about enabling system integrators and third parties to transform smaller businesses too. Big companies can do a lot with lots of resources. Moving it downstream, I think, is going to be what we're talking about.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I hope that we're talking a lot more about real use cases that bring business value to enterprises and the public perception of IoT being, Nest thermostats and kind of, little things like that are I hope we're talking about bigger things and in the enterprise setting.
it almost goes back to the first question, which is about productivity, right? Again, if a customer comes to you and they want to be more productive, and they're going to bring into the whole equation is the Internet of Things. So I think that within the next year or two, we'll be talking about that, is that customers will be coming to us with that productivity, and they'll be saying, how can I be more productive as a business? So I think they're going to be getting that understanding and saying, maybe I should leverage the Internet of Things, and I need you to help me get to that point so I can make more money. So I think that's where we're coming from.
James?
I think I kind of agree with Fred there. I think in a few years, if we come back here, I'd like to see about the diversity of the applications, things that we haven't really even thought about now, seeing them become real and maybe even be, billion-dollar businesses in and of themselves.
Well, it's certainly an interesting space to be in. Just in the last couple of days, as far as IoT goes anyway, we've talked about smart cities, wearables, industrial, the Internet of Things as well. A lot to talk about. Nice to have all you guys up on the stage at the same time. And Fred, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Josh, nice meeting you, and thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Matt, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
And James, nice to meet you.
Thank you.
All right,
Good to meet you.
Until next time. And thank you for joining us at TIA 2016 Network of the Future. right here from the Dell TI Now studio. For more coverage, please visit tinow.org. So long.